today's hearing is like most of the majority's investigations and hearings. A lot of allegations, zero proof, no receipts, but apparently some dick pics.
Democratic Congressmember Robert Garcia, who you just heard speaking, was not exaggerating. This is actually what went down at the hearing held before the MAGA Republican-controlled Oversight Committee. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. On Wednesday, MAGA Republicans who control the Oversight Committee, led by the MAGA Republican chairman, James Comer, put on two fake whistleblowers, people who the MAGA Republicans call whistleblowers, who are not whistleblowers at all, who continue to lie and defame President Biden, but specifically going after President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, even though Hunter Biden never held a position in the government, unlike Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and daughter, Ivanka Trump, which Democrats were quick to point out in this hearing. This was a very powerful hearing, but not for the reasons that MAGA Republicans wanted, but Democrats pushing back. I want to show you, though, right now, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene, and as Democratic Congressmember Robert Garcia stated, she spent her time actually putting up nude photographs of Hunter Biden. This is a despicable scene. Of course, it's going to be censored here, but the photo that she showed the witnesses and the individuals within the committee and those in attendance was actually the nude photos. Play the clip.
Mr. Chairman, we're 1 minute and 53 seconds over. As long as Ms. Ocasio-Cortez can get equal time, she can keep going.
I will let Ms. Greene wrap up 5 seconds, and then I'll give Mr. Mafume additional time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Shapley, you started an investigation into Hunter Biden, codenamed Sportsman, which opened in November of 2018. It was an offshoot of an investigation the IRS was conducting into a foreign-based amateur online pornography platform. This is evidence of Hunter Biden making sex tape. Excuse me, this is my time. Making pornography.
Should we be displaying this, Mr. Chairman, in the committee?
The lady's time has expired and went 2.5 minutes over.
So the witnesses that you're seeing there, just to set the stage, there is an individual by the name of Joseph Ziegler, who claims to be a 13-year IRS special agent with the Criminal Investigation Division. I'm going to accept that representation as true. Also, another IRS investigator by the name of Gary Shapley. And one of the things that they claim is the Hunter Biden investigation was delayed and stalled based on a weaponized Department of Justice. Mind you, the Trump-appointed prosecutor, the actual United States Attorney for Delaware appointed by Donald Trump, says these individuals, Ziegler and Shapley, are not telling the truth. And the United States Attorney David Weiss, again appointed by Trump, who's a Republican, says there was no delay and he had no strings attached by Merrick Garland and others. But as Democrats pointed out at this hearing, most of the conduct that the MAGA Republicans alleged that created this so-called delay in the investigation of Hunter Biden took place while Donald Trump was in office, while Donald Trump controlled the Department of Justice. I want you to take a look at this brilliant questioning by Democratic Congressmember Raja Krishnamurthy, who, in questioning these witnesses, Ziegler and Shapley, cross-examines them brilliantly and exposes the fact that the conduct at issue took place while Trump was in office. Play the clip.
You were concerned about the complexities of the election cycle and potential delays that arose in connection with the election cycle. You said at page 23, and I remember there were always times where we were always on an impending election cycle. It was always the elections being brought up in early 2020. It was the presidential primaries. Now, sir, Joe Biden was not the president at that time either, was he?
I mean, the answer to your question is no, he was not, but I don't see where you referenced it in my, for
page 23. You're talking about how the election cycle is delaying decisions by the prosecution. And it turns out that the delay in the election cycle was happening at a time when Joe Biden was not the president.
I'm sorry, sir, that's in Special Agent Ziegler's transcript. That's why I couldn't find it.
So Mr. Ziegler and you shared concerns about delays related to the election cycle, but at that time, Joe Biden was not the president.
I believe at that time he was the nominee for president.
But, well, he was not the president, was he? It's just a simple question, sir.
Can you rephrase what time period?
Joe Biden was not the president in the presidential primaries in 2020.
Correct. That is correct.
Sir, finally, Mr. Shapley, you said that warrants were ready as soon as April 2020 to begin searching for records, but actions weren't taken with regard to those warrants. Again, Joe Biden was not the president in April 2020, was he?
So I'm confused by your line of questioning. We're talking about an election to which now President Biden was a part of. So he didn't have to be the president to have election meddling.
No, but the question is this. Was he the president at that time in April 2020?
It's been asked and answered.
And what's the answer, sir?
The election.
The answer is
issue
yes or no?
is no.
Thank you. Thank you. I yield back.
And here is Congressmember Krishnamurthy again making this important point that MAGA Republicans want to conflate and just deceive the American people. Facts matter. Play the clip.
I see at page 12 of your transcript, deposition transcript, you start laying out a series of concerns that you had with regard to various people and different issues related to this investigation. You say, quote, I started this investigation in November 2018 after reviewing bank deposits. Then you later say, career IRS staff were not initially supportive of starting the investigation. Of course, in November 2018, Joe Biden was not the president, correct?
Joe Biden was not the president, correct.
And then at page 20, you lay out another concern. You had a concern about Bill Barr, Attorney General Bill Barr, consolidating these series of cases into the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware. At that point, you said, quote, what was the potential issue I saw with working the case in Delaware? We were working with a small U.S. Attorney's Office who might not have ever worked a case of this caliber. Now, of course, Bill Barr was appointed by Donald Trump, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, let me turn to another concern that you lay out in your testimony. You were concerned about the quality of the prosecutors. On page 14, you say, quote, the prosecutors were the JV squad, and they weren't up to the task of handling such a big case. Now, sir, U.S. Attorney Weiss was also appointed by Donald Trump, right?
So as far as the actual nomination and what went into why...
I'm not asking you why. I'm just saying USA Weiss was appointed by Donald Trump, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, another concern you lay out in your deposition at page 21, you talk about your concerns about this investigation having been made overt, being publicized for the world to know. You said, quote, one of the first disagreements I recall between the IRS investigators and prosecutors was the idea of going public. Now, sir, this was in March, April 2019. Joe Biden was not the president then, was he?
Here is Democratic Congressmember Jamie Raskin just obliterating the MAGA Republicans' Hunter Biden conspiracy theories. Play the clip.
So what happened? Well, the son of the sitting president of the United States lost his brother and then lost his way badly back in 2015. As too many families around the country know, drug addiction is a dark and powerful affliction. And like other addicts, Hunter Biden made foolish and criminal choices, including failing to pay his taxes and owning a firearm in violation of federal law. And he's now being held criminally accountable for it. His investigation began under the Trump administration. It was conducted by a U.S. attorney for Delaware, David Weiss, who Donald Trump appointed to his office and who Attorney General Barr chose for this assignment to conduct this investigation. In his final press conference in December of 2020, Attorney General Barr expressed full confidence in Weiss's work, saying it was, quote, being handled responsibly and professionally within the department. And to this point, I have seen no reason to appoint a special counsel, and I have no plan to do so before I leave. Furthermore, Joe Biden never publicly questioned or challenged this prosecution. When it began, he did not decry it as a witch hunt by Donald Trump. He placed his trust in the fairness of the American justice system. When he became president, not only did he not use his power to halt the investigation, he kept in place Trump's handpicked U.S. attorney, Mr. Weiss, overseeing it, even though incoming presidents usually replace U.S. attorneys with their own appointees. And his attorney general, Merrick Garland, made sure that Mr. Weiss, appointed by Donald Trump, had full authority and resources to pursue this probe and charge it however and whenever he saw fit in any district in the country. And in the past few weeks, as Hunter Biden accepted a guilty plea, the president and his attorney general have done nothing to interfere with the case, which is overseen by a federal judge appointed by, yes, Donald Trump.
And here is Democratic Congressmember Jamie Raskin again pointing out who some of these other so-called whistleblowers are that MAGA Republicans are relying on. Play the clip.
I thought we might be here today on the matter that the chairman declared as top priority, the crusade to find evidence of wrongdoing by President Biden. But now the majority's long-promised star witness turns out to be a fugitive from American justice, an arms trafficker indicted on 8 federal criminal felony counts and an unregistered foreign agent for China who tried to trade Chinese arms for Iranian oil. So I guess he's not going to be a witness for the majority anytime soon. Well, after the failed SARS reports, bank records, Form 1023, we can conclude that this Inspector Clouseau-style quest for something that doesn't exist has turned our committee into a theater of the absurd, an exercise in futility and embarrassment.
Back to Democratic Congressmember Robert Garcia calling out James Comer for using Chinese spies as fake whistleblowers. Play the clip.
That there aren't targets of foreign influence on this committee? These are the real questions that we need answers.
If you're willing to yield, I'll answer that question.
Sure, I just want my time.
I've never met Gal Luft in my life. All I know is he was getting money from the same company that the Bidens were getting money from, CEFC. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking forward to also if anyone from the committee or any committee members or committee staff had any contact with who is now obviously a Chinese spy, which you and the committee have been hyping up for weeks.
Well, is the president's son a Chinese spy? They took money from the only difference is the president's son took a hell of a lot more money than Gal Luft did.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, you were the one hyping up a Chinese spy and arms dealer for weeks. This is just another example.
Who cares if they had money from the same company?
With absolutely zero self-awareness, or perhaps Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to cut another ad for President Biden and the Democrats for the 2024 election. Marjorie Taylor Greene states that when evidence is presented and the facts show that someone is guilty of a crime, it doesn't matter what their name is, they should be held accountable.
I would also like to say that when evidence and proof of a crime is presented, no prosecution should be denied, no matter who the person is.
It's all projection and confession when it comes to the MAGA Republicans. I mean, it's like she's talking about Donald Trump there. Here, I want to show you in this next clip. This is Democratic superstar Jasmine Crockett talking about Donald Trump's connections to China.
I want to get to something else really quickly. I want to talk about what we should be prosecuting. We should be looking at the fact that in 2017, Trump's first year in office, he also made $6.5 million from China, his tax returns show. The source of the China payments is not clear from the returns. The payments were a surprise since Trump is an outspoken critic of the $5.8 million that Hunter Biden made. The difference is Trump was our president when he made this money from China, whereas I'm sure you would agree with me, Hunter Biden has always been a private citizen. We've got a lot of other stuff. In fact, it's clear that Trump never paid more than $750 in taxes for, I want to say, a total of like 2 years of his taxes, which is absolutely insane. But we also know that it showed that Trump claimed large cash donations to charities, but the report said the IRS did not verify them. The report also said that while Trump's tax filings were large and complicated, the IRS does not appear to have signed experts to work on them. That is shameful.
And here is MAGA Republican James Comer trying to justify Donald Trump being paid millions of dollars from China while Donald Trump was in office.
You made the argument that Trump received $6 million from China or something, and Hunter Biden received the money from China. Do you know exactly what Hunter Biden did to receive the money from China? Because that's something we've had a hard time trying to figure out. I think I know what Trump's businesses were. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I just know what his businesses are. I don't know what the Biden's businesses are.
And you don't know what it's not.
Well,
I'm sorry?
And you don't know what it's not either.
But what I'll say.
So you have no idea why or why not he received that money.
What I will say is,
You have no evidence about it.
Can I submit this MSNBC or this NBC article for the record as well?
Without objection, so ordered.
And I will say that in this article, it specifically says that the source of a number of Trump's monies, it was unclear. He just said that he did have businesses there. He did say that he had opened some bank accounts in China, but they could not find the source of the monies that were paid to him from China.
Here's Democratic Congress member Jerry Connolly talking about the weaponization of the Department of Justice under Donald Trump and Bill Barr, who Donald Trump claims now is a loser and a rhino. Play the clip.
Speaking of interference, the American people know President Trump pressured the Justice Department, which we're talking about here today. Like, wouldn't that be wrong if someone did that? To go easy on his friend Michael Flynn. We know when President Trump's handpicked Attorney General William Barr took the reins, he pressured officials to reduce their sentencing for Roger Stone and glossed over Robert Mueller's 2016 presidential election report saying it exonerated the president, when in fact Robert Mueller explicitly said no, it did not, and listed 10 specific items of obstruction of justice he recommended be pursued, and pointed out, lest we misunderstand the pursuit part, he couldn't indict a sitting president according to DOJ guidelines. But he said in his report, an enterprising district attorney, once that president left office, might want to pursue it.
Democratic Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury had to do a check here to make sure that these witnesses weren't Chinese spies and unlawful foreign agents.
I'd like to get right into some basic vetting questions, as unfortunately our colleagues across the aisle failed to do so with some of the previous witnesses that they called. And so, Mr. Ziegler and Mr. Shapley, I'm hoping that these are very simple, very straightforward questions, so I'd like to ask that you answer them with a yes or no answer. Mr. Shapley, are you now or have you ever acted as an unregistered foreign agent for the Chinese government or for any other government?
No.
And Mr. Ziegler, are you now or have you ever acted as an unregistered or registered foreign agent?
No.
And Mr. Shapley, have you ever participated in illegal arms trafficking?
No, I have not.
And Mr. Ziegler, how about yourself?
I have not.
And finally, Mr. Shapley, have you ever been indicted of a crime, lied to investigators while under oath, or run from the law?
No, I have not.
And Mr. Ziegler, same question to you. Have you ever been indicted, lied to investigators, or run from the law?
I have not.
Thank you for answering those questions. Obviously, it would seem strange to have to ask these clarifying questions, but given the majority's track record in calling witnesses on this matter, not to mention their own presidential candidate, it seemed necessary to clarify for our American folks who are listening today.
Back to Democratic Congressmember Robert Garcia, again brilliantly pointing out, President Biden's family doesn't hold government positions, unlike Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner. Played the clip.
And I want to point out that no Biden family members hold government positions of any kind. Now, this is, of course, in stark contrast to the Trump crime family. The majority conveniently glazes over the Trump's family's foreign dealings. The Trump family, who, of course, were actually appointed to White House senior jobs, from Ivanka's Chinese trademarks to Jared's Qatari real estate bailout and $2 billion in Saudi private equity money. So where's that investigation? They were actually in the White House.
I like this moment. Democratic Congress member Robert Garcia pulling out the Giuliani photo, and watch what he says.
Giuliani recommended that his law, Rudy Giuliani, by the way, whose law license is being recommended to actually be removed. Now, Rudy Giuliani's longtime associate, Lev Parnas, just said that he's prepared to testify under oath that there is no evidence that the president or his son Hunter interfered with Ukrainian politics, and there never has been. The Republican U.S. Attorney Scott Brady, handpicked by Donald Trump, determined it did not have sufficient evidence to further investigate Rudy's claims. But members of this committee, even today, repeat this narrative over and over again. More accusations, no proof, no receipts.
Democratic Congress member Stephen Lynch making a great point here. Play the clip.
I am surprised, though. Seems to be a new level of hypocrisy here. As a longstanding member of this committee, I think most of the members who have served a long time here know full well what political interference and what sweetheart deals look like. And I think context is very important. In 2017, we had a situation where former National Security Advisor and Trump campaign surrogate Michael Flynn was indicted. Indicted by a federal grand jury. He pled guilty twice. And he lied to FBI agents about his communications with the Russian government prior to the inauguration of President Trump. He was only National Security Advisor for 22 days. But my colleagues on the other side of the aisle had no interest, zero interest in looking into that case. And in response, the president at the time, President Trump, repeatedly and publicly attacked the case and the agents who brought it, including by claiming that Mr. Flynn was the victim of quote, dirty, filthy cops at the top of the FBI, close quote. He also described the prosecution as a disgrace and claimed that those who investigated Mr. Flynn were guilty of treason. Those are public statements made by a sitting president attacking the FBI. And despite the fact that Mr. Flynn pleaded guilty twice to lying to the FBI, President Trump's Attorney General William Barr personally intervened in the case, and that led the Department of Justice to abruptly reverse course and have the case dismissed on grounds that a federal judge found dubious, to say the least. And that's a quote from the judge.
And finally, let's take a look at what AOC had to say. Play the clip.
Where there actually is a set of breadcrumbs, however, is in a set of tweets and letters sent from former President Trump to several chairs, to the chair of the House Judiciary Committee that we see here. In fact, according to New York Times article, which I'd like to present to the record today, President Trump's attorney wrote to the Judiciary Committee chairman urging him to investigate what he called, quote, a rogue local district attorney. And after that New York DA convened a grand jury that ultimately indicted Donald Trump, Chairman Jordan complied with that letter. Shortly after President Trump's attorney sent that letter to the committee, which is highly unusual, a very highly unusual act. And in fact, after that, on March 20th, Chairman Jordan, together with the Committee on House Administration, Chairman Brian Steele, as well as the chairman of this committee, wrote to District Attorney Bragg and then demanded a sweeping series of documents, including communications between the DA's office and the Department of Justice, also highly unusual. In fact, on his Truth Social account later on, Donald Trump claimed that the U.S. attorney investigating Hunter Biden, a U.S. attorney, by the way, that Donald Trump appointed, was, quote, a coward. And then in that, he then urged that maybe the presiding judge will have the courage and intellect to break up this, quote, cesspool of crime. Curiously, just a few days after this tweet, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Jason Smith, sent a letter to U.S. Attorney David Weiss and Attorney General Merrick Garland, who are implicated in this hearing, explicitly asking them to place the whistleblower testimony from the committee's depositions into the court record, which were addressed during the chairman's opening statements, before Hunter Biden's plea hearing at the end of the month.
More conspiracies from MAGA Republicans not tethered to reality. And going back to what Robert Garcia said, today's hearings, like most MAGA hearings, involve allegations, no proof,
but apparently some dick pics.
I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Wherever you get audio podcasts, subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Hit subscribe right now. It's free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and have an excellent day.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.